Oh,
All right. Hello, everyone. So, welcome to this space. We have OK Bets here with us, also known as XYZ. I'm sorry for blowing your cover.
oh no.
Um, okay. Well, you've kindly agreed to share some of your time and your knowledge on the topic of post-MOASS asset management. This is about becoming ungovernable, although how ungovernable you can become is questionable.
Pretty ungovernable. You're gonna
All
be you're
right.
gonna be okay.
Good. I like the
Yeah.
sound of that. So you're very well versed in this area. I believe you unravel these kinds of financial structures uh, for criminals. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my background is mostly in criminal investigations pertaining to money laundering, as well as drug trafficking, human trafficking, RICO, so on and so forth. Um, and prior to that, I was in healthcare fraud, and so there were a lot of trusts involved with that as well, because we all know how honest healthcare can be. Uh, so yeah, I'm excited to present. Um, I'll just be walking you through several sections. Most of it will be rather quick, and then I will expound on trust and estates, mainly because that's going to be your bread and butter. There will be some talk about banking as well as alternative citizenship as well as and residency, um, and that'll be it. I mean, it'll be pretty fairly self-explanatory. And so then, yeah, I can start whenever.
Awesome. So, well, shall we go step by step and just imagine, although it is the future, so we know it's going to happen. You just landed with a fuckload of money
Hmm.
from after Moz from selling, hopefully at the top, or as close as to the top as you can get it. What would you advise people do sort of immediately after that money hits their bank account?
So let's talk about something that needs to happen before all of this commences. This is actually kind of why I want to give the
Oh,
presentation
all right.
now,
Cart
because
before the
many of
horse.
the things that you could do are proactive and free, and so you might as well just get started now. Um, the first thing that I want you guys to do, and this is again before I received my windfalls, like earlier through Ethereum, through several large options trades and so on, is I made a list of all of my bad debt and all of my good debt. Okay. So an example of bad debt is high interest credit card debt. That's not good. Good debt includes things like mortgage, right? If you're paying everything on time monthly, you're going to be good to go. Um, and I would make a list, people you owe money to, so on and so forth, and take care of all of it immediately the moment you sell. You want to start with a completely clean slate. Now, I don't necessarily recommend you get rid of all of your good debt. There is one exception, and we'll talk about that, but I don't recommend you get rid of your good debt. Excuse me. And give me one second. Okay, sorry about that. I don't recommend you get rid of all of your good debt, and mainly because in the United States, the Fair Isaac credit scoring system, so FICO, really they incentivize you to stay in this perpetual state of debt. And I know that seems, dystopian in nature, but it's good. It's okay. You just play the game and you'll be good to go. So I would recommend you make a list, you pay off all your bad and good debt. The one exception is if you have any prior issues with money management. Okay, you're bad at financial management, you're bad at spending money, you have gambling debt, you have gambling issues. I'd pay everything off clean slate. This includes auto loans, student loans, whatever you may have. Just get rid of it. You got to start fresh. You have to start new. It's very likely, depending on the balance of good versus bad debt, that your credit score might go down. So I'll give you an example. When I paid off my student loans, my credit score dropped by 40 points for about 6 months. And so although I had less debt, they didn't really like that. So just, uh, making you aware. Um, Then I would make a list of all of your vices. All vices lie with sex, drugs, money, and occasionally rock and roll. Okay? So it's going to be a combination of these kinds of things. Get rid of it. You need to work on yourself and get rid of these things. Um, Money is a poison. I know I've said this repeatedly, but this will allow you, the money will essentially allow you to do one of two things, either spiral out of control or enhance yourself, enhance your family's life, enhance your life to a new level, to a new echelon, right? You will reach a new class of wealth. Many of you will be in the 0.1%. So not many other people, of course, statistically, will be around you. Therefore, not many other companies will be around you to service your needs. And so the recommendations that I give, there are only so many firms that can take care of your needs. Um, I, of course, don't have any relationship with these firms other than me being a client. There is no, I will never solicit you for any of that. Um, so with that said, let's get started as to the initial resources that you want to use. There's a resource called privacyguides.org. Okay, you should go on that, peruse that website, and see what you can do to proactively make sure that you remain as secure as possible. A lot of this stuff is overkill. You have to understand the moment you guys have a cell phone and a credit card, the government can track you. So don't worry so much about, oh, should I only use Tor browser and should I only use a rooted Android phone, so on and so forth. It's not really going to matter all that much unless if you decide to partake in a career of drug trafficking or human trafficking, so on and so forth. I hope none of you do. Um, the one of the
For
yeah. Mhm.
could you like, for example, say you have two phones, and as you say, you
Yes,
have one for your finances.
yes. So
So
yeah, so
yeah.
let me elaborate on that. And so I'll get to that soon. The first thing that you need is a password manager, and you need to generate secure passwords. This is going to be your rate determining step for security. If you have this combined with a time-based one-time password 2FA app, so this is also known as a TOTP 2FA application, you will be better off than about 90% of the people out there. So I would use those first. I separate my life into two different, rungs, essentially, two different tranches. One is my personal life where I have an iPhone and I just, text random people and send memes and so on. And then I have a second phone in which I only give this phone number out to attorneys, physicians, banking, any sort of finance and anything to do with, with legality. Um, you're going to realize you're not actually going to deal with that many people. I don't advise hiring a bunch of managers or engaging in having these layers and layers of hierarchy. There's no need for that. I can manage my entire financial life using 3 or 4 apps, and I have maybe 2 guys that I need to call to complete anything. Um, and so you need to keep your financial life as simple as possible. I promise you, you cannot go wrong if you keep it simple. The moment that what tends to happen is people tend to complicate things a lot, and it will end in your demise. The one cardinal piece of advice I can give is never ever let anybody else sign your checks or manage your personal accounts. The money has to stop with you. The buck stops with you. Okay. Um, some of the people I remember had been a little bit upset that I'd recommended Gmail. The only reason I recommend Gmail is because most of these banks use old legacy code. They use something called COBOL. Their emails are often a mess. It's very difficult for them to send you emails into things like Proton Mail. I would know because I used Proton Mail for 2 years. I had many problems. There were banks that couldn't communicate with me effectively. It's extremely annoying to have to contact the bank to then change your email, especially once you reach a certain level of wealth. It's not as easy as, oh, well, I'll just log into my Chase account and then I'll just change the email out. You got to call. Sometimes they'll give you something called an RSA key. It's very annoying. So I would recommend just use a mainstream email that's available. Out of Hotmail, Yahoo, and Gmail, Gmail is by far the most secure. There is a separate program called the Advanced Protection Program, and I would highly recommend you use that. Um, with two-factor authentication, some people have suggested YubiKeys. The only keys I recommend are by the company YubiKey. Don't ever use anything else. There's a lot of cheaper options available online. Don't use them. I used to use YubiKeys. I kept losing them, so now I just use the 2FA app. You have to remain as organized as possible, but there's a limit, and I tend to be pretty unorganized, and so I have lost, I don't know, 3 or 4 YubiKeys in my short career. Um,
Just to add, like when it comes to say you hold, I imagine you hold some cryptocurrency
Yes.
assets. Like, how do you manage those in
Yeah.
terms of
So
security?
we'll get to that soon when I talk about banking. Um,
Sure. All right.
I do want to mention VPNs because people often ask me about this. The only two VPNs that I would recommend are iVPN and Mullvad. The rest of them are terrible, but let me tell you, VPNs do not do what you think that they do. Okay? They can keep you briefly anonymous, but really, if anybody wants you, they can come and get you. VPNs really don't help all that much. Um, and so now we can move on to banking and brokerages, and then specifically.
What was
Mhm,
the sorry?
mhm.
What was the VPN company you
Yeah,
recommended? It's not
it's called
technical, but
iVPN is one.
oh, that's the
Yeah,
name of the
yes,
company.
yes.
Oh, okay,
iVPN. The other one is called Mullvad, Mullvad.
okay.
Um,
So I like the letter I
yes,
VPN.
yes.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
gotcha. Thanks.
there are when it comes to brokerages and banks, okay, this is really going to correlate with how you set up your trust, okay? But if you are based in the United States, you want to use the largest broker available with the highest AUM. You also want to use the largest bank available with the highest AUM. In general, the bank that you're paired with for your private wealth, essentially, once you reach an ultra high net worth individual value of $30 million in liquidity or above, you will get paired with a private bank. There are rules and there are exceptions. I mean, there are exceptions to this rule, but in general, it's anywhere from 15 to 30, and they're going to take you on board. Um, Here's the issue: U.S. U.S. courts have full jurisdiction over your bank account. Okay, so that's why I would recommend you also have a bank account outside of US jurisdiction. So we'll talk about that soon when I dig into trust. The bread and butter of this presentation really is going to be on trust creation. Once you do that, like 95% of your work is done. So congratulations. It takes about 6 weeks to make a trust. It's not going to be that big of a deal. I understand that all of this might sound overwhelming, but you can take proactive steps today. Um, the brokers that I use really depend on the kind of loans that I want to take out. If you want to take out things like pledged asset lines, securities backed lending, you really are going to be paired with the brokerage that your bank pairs you with. So JP Morgan will use their own, UBS also uses their own, and so on. These rates that they give you use what is called the secured overnight financing rate or funding rate. Um, it's also known as SOFR. They used to use LIBOR, but now they've changed. Does it make any difference to you? Not really. They will use SOFR plus a basis point value to give you these loans. You take out these pledged asset line loans against the securities that you've purchased, your long-term holdings, and they will give you a loan to value ratio. These guys are really aggressive. I've seen rates of upward of 80% loan to value. I would never recommend you take out all your money like that. Now, why do I recommend these loans? Because loans aren't taxed, right? And everybody wants to save on tax. Well, this is really one of the only big ways to save a bunch of money on tax is by using and living off your interest, right? So the name of the game here is to live off your interest. Don't touch your principal. So whatever profits that you end up making from MOASS, after you paid off all your debts and, if you want to buy a house and you want to buy some real estate, which we'll talk about soon, um, you really just want to live strictly off the interest. The maximum I tend to take out is 3.5% of the loan to value. So 3.5% of my net assets on a given closing date is the maximum I will ever take out. Now you might ask, well, why 3.5%? Because 3.5% is half of 7, and 7% is the normal average return for the mutual funds that I'm in. So the mutual funds that I'm in, for example, are just different flavors of VTSAX, which is the Vanguard Admiral Shares Fund. Um, it's fairly low risk, although Vanguard categorizes it, I believe, on a category of 4 out of 5 in terms of risk. The definition of risk is rather nebulous and it's often debated by quant finance. I don't really find it risky. I think it is an incredibly broad market platform. They have 3,200 or 3,500 holdings the last I checked. You have adequate risk exposure to real estate investment trusts, adequate exposure to commodities. It's a one-stop shop for me, and I'm very lazy, so it's good. I don't need to manage it whatsoever. Um, And so 3.5 is half of 7. I'll take out a max of 3.5. That's good enough. You can just live off of that for the rest of the year. The first thing that you want to do in terms of finding good people is you want to make a decision with yourself that you will not pick up nickels in front of a steamroller. Okay, this is essential. A lot of wealthy people that I know, they like to take risks by hiring stupid people. You unfortunately will lose all your money if you hire the wrong person. Okay, excuse me, that's my cat. You will unfortunately lose all your money if you hire the wrong person. Like my cat, for example, right? She can't do anything. The Chambers.com is the only resource that I would use in terms of hiring these kinds of attorneys. Talk to your attorney friends. Every single person should know about Chambers.com. Normally in law, the way that people try to enter law school is they'll use US News and World Report to get their law rankings. They will generally go to something called a T14 or top 14 law program. Why do they have why is it called the top 14 and like not the top 10 or top 20? Because lawyers are weird. I don't know. They will then use a website called vault.com to try to figure out the most prestigious firms to get into. Vault is too general for us. We need something more domain specific. And so therefore, chambers.com, there's a special tab that states private wealth or like wealth management. You click that, you click your region, and you click what kind of law that you want. It should be called private client law or private wealth law. And you will see a bunch of firms in place. There are 3 different bands that are given for these firms. There's a gold band, a silver band, and a bronze band. Generally, this is just from personal experience, I like to use silver banded firms because they work a lot harder. Within those bands, I only like to hire associates instead of partners. I know a lot of people will advise partners, but partners tend to be, honestly a little lazier. Sometimes they're just overworked and they have too many clients. Associates are more willing to work. They're a little bit younger. They're a little bit hungrier, and so I tend to work with those. Your fees will range anywhere from $750 to $2,000 depending on whom you hire. To me, it has always been worth the money. It's totally okay. These guys actually have, well-studied results. They're insured, licensed, bonded, held to a very high standard, unlike a lot of financial advisors. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So anyway, once you find your private client attorney, they will advise you on your future plans. So you basically go to them. It'll likely be an in-person meeting, and you will tell them exactly what you want to do. Hey, I have a bunch of money, and I want to save on taxes. I would also like to set up a trust and estate plan, and they will get started with that. The tax plan will generally be handled by them in conjunction with a CPA or a tax attorney. Now, in the industry, tax attorneys are generally used for people that are already in trouble with the IRS. They can and they have made plans before, but in general, a CPA can do an equal, if not better, job. They're generally more prone to doing these kinds of things, and they have a domain expertise to assist you with an adequate tax plan. Your bread and butter for your tax plan is really going to be in 2 tranches. It's either going to be retirement savings, so basically, post-tax retirement savings, pre-tax retirement savings, as well as things like DAFs, donor advised funds, and family foundations. This will always depend on your liquidity profile. This is a completely individual and tailored approach. And I highly recommend you have good communication with your lawyer, you build good relationships. Everything in wealth management is about relationships. And the reason why is because remember, there aren't that many people out there, right? So like the trustee company that I work with, I've met the CEO, I've met several of the members that assist with the trustee company. And they're good. They have to pass the sniff test. They have to pass the sniff test. My attorney also visits the Cook Islands, every 2 or so years, and she does a fantastic job. Banking will also be recommended. There are also banking recommendations through chambers.com. In the US, I've used a lot of these banks, okay? The only one that I tend to like is JP Morgan, but you do you. You can choose whatever you'd like. I have found JP Morgan to be the easiest to work with. That's all. You tend to use banks for a lot of things. They offer a broad range of services, I tend to only use them for lending. Okay, I use them for lending and things that we'll talk about soon, which include placing liens on real estate if you want to transfer it to a foreign LLC and so on. So I tend to only use banks for very basic things. That's why they don't like me much. I don't pay them very much in fees, right? There are no management fees associated with it. I don't use a fiduciary. There have been multiple studies, I mean, a multitude of studies on CFA performance versus RIA performance, so on and so forth. And none of these guys over the course of 25 years can beat the S&P 500. You may have people that will market to you and will try to basically grift you to a point where they'll say, well, we beat the S&P 500 for 10 years in a row. Let me tell you a phrase that you should memorize. Everybody is a genius in a bull market, okay? I want to know what they're making in the bear market, and it's almost always a complete wash. The one tip that I have with investments is when it comes to mutual funds, you have to hold. Do not sell once it's at a 60% loss. That would be one of the dumbest things that you could possibly do. The people that tend to make it in life are the ones that just hold. And we're all kind of used to diamond handing, right? So I don't think that should really be a problem. But do remember that although it's like tracking the S&P 500 in a way, from peak to trough, or basically the zenith to the nadir, it's often a loss of 60%. So just, you can stomach the loss. That's okay. You don't need to sell, just dollar cost average. It's really never been a problem because our markets are intentionally designed to eventually melt up. Okay. When you have a private client firm, they will advise you on multiple things. One of the things that I've noticed with private client firms is they're not really good with dealing with criminal defense. So let's say you accidentally, you murder somebody, right? What I would do is I would go to, if you're in the United States especially, there is a board called the National Board of Trial Advocacy. Okay, their website sucks, okay, but you should be used to that because a lot of you like to DRS. That was a joke, but so what you should do is go to the NBTA website and get yourself a board certified attorney. Almost every state, I believe, has its own board certification, and I would also look up those attorneys and make sure that they're actually in court. Many of these attorneys are like, they like to pretend. They're like, oh no, I've handled all these cases. I do divorce, I do taxes, I do this, I do that. That's not accurate. They tend to specialize in one thing, and if they're one of those jack of all trades lawyers, I would avoid them like the plague. Okay, only go to the domain specific experts. That's it. This is all they should do. So if you want family law planning, for example, if you have prenups, postnups, custody hearings, things of that nature, you got to go to a family law firm. There are also family law firms geared towards private wealth, right? So, and the same goes with criminal defense. You want to hire an attorney that's actively doing trials and that's actively board certified, and that's actively taking something called CLE, which is basically continuing law education credits. Civil defense is a little bit different. So civil defense includes torts, and so I won't get too much into the weeds, but essentially, if you are accused of a civil misdoing or civil misconduct, your private client attorney will easily help you with that. And so always ask them for a referral. My attorney is my point person for all of this. In case of, I ever murder somebody, I'm going to head to my private client attorney. I will also look at NBTA as well as the state that I'm in, and then I will hire from that point forward. But again, get ready to pay up. There is one exception. If any of you are ever in trouble with any sort of board, right, medical board, the SEC, any sort of organization, what I would do is I would hire an attorney that used to work for one of these organizations, okay? This is kind of how the whole feedback loop works. These people will work in a position of authority for like 5 to 10 years. They will leave. They'll end up working at a hedge fund or a large law firm, like one of those white shoe law firms. You hire them, you pay them a bunch of money, and they will keep you out of jail, right? Your main goal here is to get favorable results, right? Everybody wants one thing in life, okay, which is kind of the greatest irony, which is preferential treatment, right? And so you really want to achieve that. The only way to do it in terms of the legal world is by hiring the best. The finance world, Not quite. It doesn't really, it's not as transparent, believe it or not, as the legal world. It just, based on what I've seen, excuse me, the the finance world tends to be a little bit more opaque in terms of reporting, SEC filings, so on and so forth. And so I urge you to be careful with things like private equity investments, alternative investments. These often are illiquid and almost, impossible to manage if you don't know what you're doing. And so most people, I would say, they don't know what they're doing, and that's totally okay. I'm not discrediting you guys in any way. I, for example, don't do private equity dealings whatsoever. I don't really know about it. I don't really care about it. The returns that I make are perfectly fine. I'm going to stick with it. Okay, with that said, now let me pause right here. Does anybody have any questions? And then I'll move on to trust. And the reason why is because the trust structure is the bread and butter of all of this. Is the bread and butter of this whole presentation.
All right. So if anyone has any questions, just request the mic, and we'll add you up here, and we'll get some Q&A going, and then we'll move on with the trusts. And I believe LLC. Was it St. Kitts and Nevis or Nevis?
Yes, it is a Nevisian LLC that we'll talk about, but again, we'll talk about several things. So,
all right. So, please request the mic, and we'll get some questions going. All right, Cosmin up here.
XYZ, I'm sorry. Can you go again with the apps for the password management thing? I didn't wrote them down.
No problem. It's 1Password and Bitwarden. I absolutely do not, under any circumstances, recommend LastPass. Okay? So just whatever else, you could use anything else but LastPass. Okay?
Which one do you use?
Yes, so I use 1Password, but that's because I'm primarily on iOS. If you are using Android as well as PC, so Windows, I would just stick with Bitwarden.
So if I'm using iOS, 1Password should do.
1Password would be perfectly fine. I've never had an issue with it.
And you said something about TOP2FA, something like that?
Yeah, TOTP2FA. So that stands for Time-Based One-Time Password Two-Factor Authentication Apps. The only one that I would recommend for now is Authy, AUTHY. There are others available. Authy is not perfect to any extent. However, this is the one that I've used almost, for the past 4 years.
Would you recommend KeyPass, by the way?
Oh, KeyPass is wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I completely forgot about them.
No, I just didn't know whether or not they'd sort of integrated any sort of cloud functionality, syncing in the cloud, but they're pretty good.
They're pretty good. I don't recommend Google Authenticator by any means. Okay, so although I recommend Gmail, Gmail's fine. Don't worry about encrypted email, guys. If the court wants you, they're going to get you. They don't need your email. They have your phone.
Email is like so transparent. Yeah. It's like sending a letter, but everyone's reading
exactly.
it. So, who do we have first? I think we had Squeezes first, and then Rascal.
What's up, guys?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. Hey, so at what wealth level, like what would someone's net worth be that makes it kind of like worth the juice, worth the squeeze to start setting up these trusts?
5 to 10 million is good to start.
Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So you're going to be well in that area.
You'll be well above.
So I was going to ask, just branching off the VPN. So like I have an iPhone, but I don't have a Mac computer. So do I need to do one that's better for iOS for my phone and one that's better
I would just use one. Keep it simple. In your case, I would just probably use Bitwarden. It's going to be fine.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be fine. I love how you say that all the time.
Sorry, I know it's a tick, I guess.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. No, it's super reassuring. It really is. It's so funny.
Absolutely. If there's anyone else as well, any questions, please request the mic. If not, we'll move on.
I have one more question. XYZ.
What's
From
up?
your experience, it's quite, I don't know, take it however you want to. But from your experience, have you ever been to Europe, like with work and stuff?
Yeah, my grad school is in Europe and my
Right.
medical school.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So, from your experience
Mhm.
in Western Europe, I believe you were, from your experience, how do you stay the best off the grid? Do you want me to get more specific?
Ooh.
Or
Yeah. Could you get more specific? It's actually very tough in the EU.
so by off the grid, I mean,
I can legally protect you. That I can do. Off the grid is going to be tough, but legal protection absolutely is possible.
off the grid. What I mean by off the grid is everything you have, right? Like assets, everything,
Yes.
not being under your name, but not your
Yes.
name as well, because they can be traced. And
This
so,
is certainly possible. And that's the next section, which is the fun section.
oh, that's great.
All
Okay,
right.
I'm gonna shut up. Thank you.
No. Don't worry about it, man.
No, great questions. So take it away.
Okay. So when you go to your private client attorney, you're going to ask them for a trust and estate plan. Okay. Trusts supersede wills. Okay. 45% of Americans don't have a will. Right. It's insane. 33% of professionals don't have a will. All right. That's even worse. So by the time you get to this net worth, you will really require a trust instead of a will. Wills do not protect assets. There are no asset protection laws with wills. Some lawyers will argue that there are. I'm telling you, as somebody who like runs these investigations, there's nothing. You could tear these apart like I don't know, a piece of paper. Um, so you really want to talk about trust instead, okay? Um, the trust language is very simple. So let's talk about the lexicon first, and then we'll move on to the different types of structures that you need to know about. Okay. The trust definition is essentially a management device for owning property created by a bifurcated transfer of legal and equitable interests. Okay. What the heck does that mean? It essentially means you as a settlor, grantor, or truster. These are the three words you need to know. They will all be used interchangeably. The certification coursework that I had to take uses the word settlor, so I'm just going to continue using the word settlor because that's how I was trained. What that means is all of your assets get held within a trust where the trustee is now part owner, essentially, of the assets. They will act as though they're the owner. You, as a settlor, are Mr. Moneybags. You, as a settlor, can also be the beneficiary. Children can be the beneficiary. Housekeeping staff can be some of the beneficiaries. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of freedom with trusts. Okay. Now, within this whole field of trust, there's a really specific category that we need to talk about called asset protection trusts. Okay. So there are domestic asset protection trusts. These are called DAPTs. And then there's something called overseas asset protection trusts called OAPTs. Okay. For Americans in general, I would recommend you speak to your lawyer about overseas asset protection trusts. I think almost every attorney can agree that overseas trusts far supersede the asset protection ability of domestic trusts. Here's why. Depending on the state that you're domiciled in, what I mean by that is depending on the state of which you have established residency in, your local court that's assigned to any case, let's say a creditor or whatever comes after you, right? Somebody sues you for something. The local court holds jurisdiction over your bank accounts, your home, and your domestic trust, no matter what state it's located in. I'll briefly touch on domestic trusts, and we'll move on to overseas. Domestic asset protection trusts have been around for a long time. Okay, the first one I believe was done in Alaska. However, the two most common states in which these trusts exist are Nevada and South Dakota. The majority of lawyers are actually kind of split between the two. They either will recommend Nevada or South Dakota. South Dakota is friendlier for insurance purposes and so on, but Nevada also has some friendly rules. But again, the main issue is if you're located in a state that has poor asset protection rules, and I have to say, out of all 50 states, only 17 have decent rules. Like I would consider them as decent. The rest of them, they're okay. You might get screwed. So what I would recommend is if you are domiciled, remember that local court that will preside over your case, okay, and I hope none of you will ever catch a case, But if in case you do, they can easily tell the trust, listen, I don't care about your rules. I don't care about South Dakota's rules. This person resides in Florida. We're gonna seize all their assets. Okay? So these are domestic asset protection trusts. Asset protection trusts are almost always, I mean, I want to say 99% of the time, considered irrevocable trusts. Okay? So what does irrevocable trust mean? I want you to make kind of a chart in your mind, and I want you to put these categories. Do the assets remain in the settler's estate? Okay, in irrevocable trust, technically no. There are ways of getting around this, which again your attorney will handle. Um, can the settler amend or terminate the trust? Generally, no. However, there are ways around this. So there are loopholes around this. You have to understand this entire game of financial management is just this giant game of chess. Okay, so anything that I say, there tends to be a way around it, right? But these are just generalities. The reason why you really want an irrevocable trust is because you get protection from creditors. With the revocable trust, you get really no protection from creditors. They can come in and take over, whatever they want. Now, there are exceptions. A lot of people will try to form these irrevocable trusts because they want to avoid paying child support or something called necessaries. So necessaries include things like food, water, shelter, transportation, clothing, okay, or alimony. So if you're trying to avoid all this, the trust is not going to work. Like it's not going to go in your favor. You're going to end up in a world of problems. You're going to probably have to settle. It's not going to be very good. You might even incur something called punitive damages, and this will be a problem. You may also get cited for something called, you should write this down, called fraudulent transfers or fraudulent conveyance. And again, I want you to avoid all these pitfalls. And and when I was creating all this stuff, I ended up making many mistakes, and I don't want you to go through what I had to go through, right? So it's really the key words here are irrevocable, okay, comma, with a spendthrift clause. Here's the funny story about spendthrift clauses, okay, or spendthrift provisions is also what they're called. Spendthrift trusts were originally created because there were a lot of spoiled rich kids who would spend too much money, okay? So the settler of the estate, or the settler of the trust, I should say, would say, you know what, I'm going to give this kid like an allowance, and that's about it. And then I'm going to let the trustee, which is basically the company that's handling all of this, okay, handle the distribution. Here's the deal. In most courts, it's pretty well known that most spendthrift trusts are no longer for these spoiled rich kids. It's actually for the settler to receive protection from creditors. So it's rather interesting because the trustee can step in and they can say, listen, we only make time distributions. We can't really pay any creditors right now. Too bad, so sad. That's it. And so spendthrift provisions are kind of a two-edged sword because you have to trust the trustee, okay? But they're generally heavily licensed and bonded. The countries that I'm recommending, 30%, I mean, imagine 30% of their GDP are these trust companies. So they can't afford to mess it up, right? And so you really want to talk to your lawyer about an irrevocable trust with a spendthrift clause, okay? There is one country that does not recognize spendthrift clauses, okay? This is the Bahamas. I would never form a trust in the Bahamas. I just don't. The banking laws are okay. They're really just not set up, um, they're really not set up for what you want to do, okay? I'll just put it at that. There are three countries that attorneys will often recommend for a foreign trust, okay? And everybody across the globe can use these three, okay? So it's regardless of wherever you're from. There are the Cook Islands, okay, which in my opinion is number one. The Cook Islands asset protection laws are so good that in fact, several US states have just copy pasted their laws. They're that good. So they've set precedents for a lot of the global asset protection laws as well. So the Cook Islands would be number one. The second one would probably be Nevis. So St. Kitts and Nevis is divided into two islands. They actually have separate governance. So Nevisian governance is different from St. Kitts. And so this would be pertaining to Nevisian governance only, not St. Kitts. And the third country would be Belize. However, I would never recommend Belize. So if any attorney recommends that, I might want you to get a second opinion. Okay. The country of Belize, unfortunately, their banking laws, their security laws, and their trust and asset protection laws are just not there. They're just not well formed. Some of you have asked me about Cayman trusts. Believe it or not, Cayman trusts don't have solid asset protection laws. They have very good tax evasion laws, but I would never recommend you evade taxes because there are plenty of very intelligent ways to avoid taxes instead, right? And so I would much rather have you avoid than evade. Only stupid people evade, okay? The Cook Islands trust laws are such that you will not have any issues with something called perpetual trust, meaning the trust can continue basically, beyond many lifetimes. In the US, unfortunately, there's something called rules against perpetuities. They're called RAP rules. These do not pertain with Cook Islands trust. The only people that I would recommend domestic asset protection trusts that are located in the US are people who are foreign to the US. Okay, who want to purchase U.S. real estate and who want to do business dealings in the U.S. South Dakota tends to be like a haven for people that are foreign. Okay, so this is kind of generally well known amongst the industry. Now, I'm asked often that, wait a minute, you said that your local U.S. jurisdiction has complete control over the banks via something called OFAC, Office of Foreign Assets Control. They do. They can freeze your bank accounts. They can seize your bank accounts. They can do basically whatever. So the way that you want to do it is you need a bank account outside of U.S. jurisdiction. The two countries, there are three countries that are very good. These are Switzerland, Liechtenstein, although Liechtenstein actually recently has been rather difficult to form a bank account just based on personal experience, and Luxembourg. So these are the three that I would recommend. Now, remember, I have to keep saying this. Your attorney's advice supersedes mine. Okay, just use this as a basic guide. But I promise you, I'm trying to steer you in the right direction. They will take it from there. Okay. My bank account, for example, is in Switzerland. The majority of my assets are purchased from the Swiss bank account. These bank accounts are not within the jurisdiction of the United States. Any court order that is submitted to the Cook Islands from the US or from wherever you're domiciled or to Switzerland are immediately torn up. Now, the advice that every attorney is going to give you is every single court order you receive, you need to listen to. Do not try to throw it away or be like, oh, I lost it. No. You tell your attorney will handle all of it. That's fine. They will comply completely with the court order. But the trustee that you have and the bank account that you have, they don't have to comply with any of this. They can tell the court that, well, we don't really recognize your jurisdiction, so too bad. Okay. There is a second layer to all of this for the people that want to have movable assets and things like real estate placed in. So for stocks and cash and cryptocurrency, trusts are perfectly great. I mean, they're great. You don't really need a second layer. But unfortunately, many of you are going to be purchasing real estate, right? You'll have vehicles, you'll have real estate, you'll have shares in private companies, perhaps. You'll have these kinds of interests. Well, how do you move all of that properly? So what tends to happen is your attorney will place a lien on your home, okay, that whatever you're purchasing, and it will be placed within a foreign LLC. The only LLC that's worth its weight nowadays is from St. Kitts and Nevis, specifically Nevis. This is known as a Nevisian LLC. They will place a lien on your properties, okay, and they will attach it to the Nevisian LLC. This is also known as equity stripping. So if you just want to write keywords down, hopefully this helps. If you have other assets, vehicles, business interests, things like that, they will place something called a UCC1 lien on your assets. UCC stands for the Uniform Commercial Code, and then 1 is just the section of the UCC. So they'll place this kind of lien, and they will attach it with the Nevisian LLC. 99% of the time, nobody will ever look into this. So meaning you'll never be questioned by a court that, oh, well, like, how come you have this weird structure? It's legally recognized. You will report it yearly to the IRS using your CPA. Of course, don't do any of this yourself. I'm telling you, you're going to run into a world of hurt if you try to attempt this yourself. These things are awfully sophisticated, and I don't want you to complicate your lives too much. This all may sound complicated, but I promise you, once it's done, it's extremely easy. I only interface with 2 bank accounts, right? I have a U.S. bank account for just easy, quick cash, things of that nature, and then the bulk of my purchases and things occur from the Swiss account. So it's quite easy. It's quite simple. You'll have basically 2 point people that you'll call. You can call them 24/5 because they work on different time zones. So you can basically call anytime, and they can do anything anything that you want, they can do. Again, I mostly use lending products. So any sort of auto loan, any sort of home loan, whatever that I want, you just call them up. It's pretty easy. It takes them, maybe a day in underwriting. It's really quite easy once you have the wealth. But this would be the general structure of how things go in terms of trust and estates. I would highly recommend that you keep your estate plan incredibly simple, but I also recommend that you hire the experts, okay? Because very few word changes in estate plans can completely change your estate plan. And some of the cases that I've had to be a part of or that I've read about involve stupid things. Like there will be an estate plan such that, oh, well, I'll give my daughter this home, but only if she marries within, this particular family that I like, and only if they remain religious and so on and so forth. I mean, it's insane, the kind of provisions that are available. Remember, the more complicated your contracts, the more, the higher proclivity, the higher correlation with something called contests. So when somebody contests your will or trust or estate, that's going to get locked up into court for years. You don't want to do that. It's very expensive. It's very difficult. As a corollary, I do have to recommend for any sort of business contract or any sort of contract that you're dealing with, you want to make them write something called, something called alternative dispute resolution. Okay, it's called an ADR. Write this down. An ADR will basically avoid court. This is what most companies do, by the way. Whenever you read these EULAs and terms and services agreements, they will always try to settle outside of court. And I would really recommend you do that. You never want to end up in court. I'm telling you, it's super expensive. It's very annoying. These things are constantly delayed. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you repeat that one more time? What was it called?
Alternative dispute resolution.
Alternative, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so generally with a basic trust structure, remember you have a settlor, a trustee. The trustee can almost never be yourself. There are like very few exceptions, okay? But it's generally a trustee is generally a licensed and bodied company. You can appoint your attorney as the trustee. I wouldn't. I would really just want to appoint a specific company that's licensed and bonded and kind of time tested with it. All of these things are built through word of mouth and through relationships. Okay, so be kind to your lawyers. They're going to recommend you to the best places, especially if you use the best firms. Once you find one person that can kind of guide you, toward the right direction, you're going to meet plenty of phenomenal people that are, the craftsmen of their job, right? They're the best at what they do. And so those are the people that you want to hire. So with regards to trust, I believe that's it. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a big section, but this is kind of the bread and butter of it.
I have a question, but it's not related to that. Just a little bit early.
Yeah, that's fine. No, don't worry about it. What's up?
So, by the way, you should definitely teach courses. I mean, the amount of information you're sharing is, incredible. So I gotta, say thanks.
I have, but they were medically related. So I taught physiology as well as pharmacology, but nothing with regards to law or finance.
Oh, nice. Well,
yeah.
Well, what's interesting, just one thing before I ask a question is,
sure.
I guess you said you worked investigating in healthcare, right? Fraud, I suppose?
Yes, Medicare fraud as well as clinical trial fraud. Sure, pharmaceutical fraud as well.
Now that's interesting because I do have a background in the medical field and have family.
Oh, awesome.
One's kind of a whistleblower, so it's pretty interesting. So anyways, want to
very cool
too. Yeah. So the question I have is, and I've been listening to the PB show and all that and what everyone has to say.
Sure.
If there is an idea of, say, a blockchain, during some
Okay.
type of squeeze, do we have to set up some type of crypto wallet beforehand, or is there a time frame for that?
Yeah, so I actually forgot about I forgot to mention that.
Good
So
question.
the way the onboarding is going to work likely with this blockchain exchange that I've been kind of ranting about essentially, the onboarding will be taken care of. It's going to be very easy to do. There are several tools that they now have that will basically allow you to do basically a username and password and email access. And then once you want to transfer out those assets, you can use an alternative crypto wallet if you'd like. Here's the deal. This is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I hate hardware wallets. I've never used one. Okay. I have never had an issue. I've never had a hack. Nothing's ever happened. I use a combination of MetaMask, M-E-T-A mask, as well as my Ether wallet. There's one wallet that I have that's only for storage, so I do not interact with any DeFi protocols whatsoever. This is just like my set it and forget it wallet, and I just kind of keep it on the side. The seed phrases that you'll get, if you lose them, you're going to lose your life. Do you understand? You can't, there's no forgot password feature. I absolutely do not recommend smart contract wallets right now. Smart contracts are inherently flawed on the Ethereum blockchain because they're not really formally verified. They're just a bunch of issues with them. I wouldn't trust them for now. I would just wait. Some crypto advocates will say, "Oh, but they were audited." Well, listen, let me tell you something. Everything's audited, okay? And they still come up with errors. And so, that one I would keep on the side. And then look, if you want to play with decentralized finance protocols, you make a second wallet and you never have the two wallets communicate with one another because remember, all of these transactions are public, right? Somebody can look these addresses up. So I like MetaMask as well as my Ether wallet. For Bitcoin, I really only like Blockstream Green. There is another one called Electrum that a lot of people use. I haven't used it. I'm sure it's okay. It's been time tested. So does that kind of help?
Yeah, and I
Oh, right.
appreciate it. Yeah.
The other, oh, right. I forgot to mention this. Okay. Cryptocurrency rules are really strange in terms of trust and asset protection. So right now, what at least my trustee advised was essentially you write your address down, you send it to your lawyer, and they will add a provision within your trust saying, okay, this following address is owned by this trust. And they were like, well, it should be good enough. So, I mean, it's kind of all nascent right now. But again, your attorney will keep up with the compliance. It's not your job to. You're paying the guy to do it, right? And so all of these things can be held by the trust. It's just real estate and other sort of these kinds of movable assets that are within US jurisdiction. They're tough. They're like a little bit tougher. They require something called equity stripping that I talked about.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cosmin, and then we got Rascal.
Yeah, I want to make a thing very clear for everyone who's listening. XYZ is talking from a perspective of common law. There's a really big difference between common law and civil law. So whoever is like from Eastern Europe, for example, you might have civil law. 75% of the countries on the globe have civil law, and common law would be found in the USA and the United Kingdom, and there's like the Quran in the UAE. So to not get confused in the future when you're maybe setting up a trust fund in the country that you're activating or moving your assets or all this and that, all the laws that he's talking about are from common law, which is totally different from civil law. There are similar laws in your country, but you need to do your own research or talk with a lawyer or whoever is from Eastern Europe. Just be in touch with me. I can help with no worries. That's it.
There are differences, but I assure you there are still ways of protecting your assets. So they will help. By the way, if anybody's located in Louisiana, in the state of Louisiana, they do not use common law. They they use a version of like Spanish/French law, and so they have a couple different things, but you can still get pretty well protected.
I believe they use the Constitution from 1866, the Belgian one. That's
I I don't think so, but okay, that's fine.
Go ahead, Rascal.
So for like, I know nothing about cryptocurrency really. So would you recommend to like diversify in crypto, like a little bit of, Bitcoin and some Ethereum, or do you prefer one over another?
I feel uncomfortable giving any specific cryptocurrency advice. I'm sorry.
No problem. Yeah,
I
that's
don't want
cool.
to, the problem is this industry is rife with scam. What I will tell you is the two largest market caps right now are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Likely what's going to happen is based on just the way the developer movement is going, Ethereum will be the mainstay global settlement layer in terms of finance. Bitcoin doesn't really do anything. It can be used as collateral in a way, but it's kind of, I don't mean to call it a pet rock, but you can't really build anything off of Bitcoin. And if anybody has arguments against that, fight me. I mean, this is an endless battle that people have in in Discord and things like that, and it's very annoying.
I'll take that answer. That's a good answer for me. That's more than I need. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
Pretty L, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I have a quick question. XYZ, if a trust or a will is being contested, does that mean it freezes the assets under the trust? And so does the trustee, does it prevent dispersion of the assets at any point if it's being contested?
It could. It will depend on the trustee. There is something called the Claflin Doctrine that you want to look into, and then your attorney can assist with that. So it really depends on the jurisdiction that you're in. It also depends on the trust that it's in. So I apologize to give you such a nebulous answer, but I want to be as accurate as possible. But look into something called the Claflin Doctrine, Claflin.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
of course.
Yo, Beth, could you just clarify again the link between the Nevis LLC and then the Cook's Trust?
Absolutely. Okay. So in your let's take a blank sheet of paper, okay, and on top you want to put a box, and you want to write in Cook for Cook Islands Trust, okay, and you want to draw an arrow connecting this box to another box called Nevis LLC in this case, okay. The trustee is the Cook Islands Trust, right? Because the trustee will be located in the Cook Islands, all right. The trustee is a co-manager of the LLC. Okay? The settler, which is you, is also the co-manager of the LLC. The coolest part about all of this, and this is what I just love this law, okay? Because it's fun and I like corruption. Okay. The coolest part about all this about this law is, let's say you're in trouble and somebody sues you and tries to unwrap the LLC's assets, which, by the way, let me tell you something, it's very, very, very tough to do. Okay? It's like basically impossible, unless if you're committing acts of terrorism, drug trafficking up to a certain limit, or sorry, beyond a certain limit, or human trafficking. It's basically impossible to open up the LLC and the assets within that. So, if you're ever in trouble, the trustee takes over as the manager. Now, you might say, but wait a minute. It's as if the trustee has full control over my assets. That's not true. The reason why is because you have the LLC, you have much more control of your assets now that there's an LLC in place. There's like kind of an additional layer of security. Do you remember when we were talking about the spendthrift clause? So the spendthrift clause basically allows the trustee to have, even more jurisdiction over the funds that are distributed, and it kind of allows them to act as an owner. I have never seen a case of a trustee committing fraud. Okay, the only two cases that I've ever seen were domestic trusts. So they were located in the United States. One was in Chicago, and I believe one was in Nevada. So I've never seen any Cook Islands trust companies that manage hundreds of billions of dollars of assets mismanage this. So the two largest companies, I believe, are Ora, that's ORA. This is a trustee company. The owner's a little bit eccentric, but I don't know, if you like that, go for it. And then the other one is called Southpac. So South PAC. So the Nevis LLC will provide you additional protection and additional control over your own assets. And remember, if you tie it with a bank account that's outside of your jurisdiction, you will be untouchable, I assure you. Basically your fate is sealed at that point. Only the highest crimes will get attention, and even that, it's kind of difficult to do. It takes a long time. These court orders take forever.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate your answer.
Wait, I need to
sorry,
comment on something called the look back period. I actually forgot about this. This is I kind of commented on it briefly, but then I forgot. So remember when we were talking about fraudulent transfers and fraudulent conveyance? Well, let's assume a creditor sues you today, right? You receive something in the mail and they're like, you owe us N million dollars, right? And you say, you know what, I'm going to form a trust today. So you contact a lawyer, they form a trust. It takes about 30 days to 6 weeks to form. And the creditor comes in and says, hey, that's fraudulent conveyance. That's a fraudulent transaction. Generally, Cook Islands trusts have a look-back period of 2 years. So basically, you don't want a creditor suing you within that period of 2 years. Here's the problem, though. Is that really practical? No. They're going to have to serve you in a Cook Islands court using the Cook Islands court laws. So it's very difficult for them to do. They will more than likely, I mean, I don't know, 98% of the cases that I've seen, they just settle out of court, right? They'll just get it settled. The domestic asset trusts, the domestic asset protection trust, the DAPTs, tend to have a look back period of 4 years, and they're super friendly with creditors. Okay, let me tell you. Anytime we see a US trust, it's kind of like, okay, great, we got them dead to rights. So hope that helps.
Nice one. Just about the ownership of the trust. You said like once something kicks off, like the ownership pretty much transfers technically to the trustee. And I was just wondering, like, how is that kind of managed? Like, is there sort of like a share thing where it's like,
so there's a relationship with the trustee, and the trustee is almost always going to listen. Not almost always. They generally always listen to the settler. So the settler gets full rights to the assets, but you have to understand the name of the game here is to separate yourself from your assets. That way, when somebody sues you as the individual, they can't tie you as the person to the assets, right? They'll make the argument that, well, no, but the trustee actually owns these assets. These aren't even mine. I'm just kind of borrowing them and having fun with the house, with the boat, with the car, with the whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting, like how that works because, like, I mean, technically your assets aren't owned by you, and
yeah.
you are trusting the trustee very much. But
yeah,
I guess
it is kind of a this is why I always recommend you get a reputed trustee instead of just like a person or a lawyer, like an individual lawyer. I wouldn't trust that at all. These trustee companies are time tested. These have been around for anywhere from 30 to 100 years. Yeah, they're good to go.
So
Which you recommended?
Go ahead.
Which you recommended was Aura or South Pack or ORA?
Yeah, or ORA or South Pack. But again, your attorney's advice supersedes mine.
Yep. Sure. Right. I'm gonna play this for my attorney.
Oh my god. Okay. This guy's like, who is this Milwaukee guy?
Yeah.
Don't trust his taste in tools, but the rest of it solid. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free. We'll consider this the Q&A section.
Oh, there is one more very quick section on alternative residency and citizenship.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So again, go to your private client attorney, get a referral. Some of them do it, some of them don't. This is actually a very nuanced field. Please do not go on YouTube. Okay, this industry is rife with scam. Now you might say, but you've been saying that about every industry. Yeah, and what? Like, so what? So what I would do is there is one gold standard company that most of the wealthy people around me have used, and I am also currently using, and it's called Henley and Partners, Henley and Partners. They're also called Henley Global. It's the same thing. And so give them a call and just ask them, tell them what your needs are, and they will recommend either a residency or citizenship based on the strength of your current extant passport. So whatever passport you're tied with, they're going to recommend something else for you. So, U.S. passports tend to be very strong, and so because we're number one, and they'll tend to advise, alternative residency instead of citizenship. But again, speak with the experts. There are requirements. There are some weird requirements. Like, for example, with my Swiss residency, I believe the minimum taxes I have to pay per year for the Swiss residency is 250,000 Schiff. So Schiff means Swiss franc. And so you have to kind of, do a risk-benefit analysis and say, should I actually be doing this? The reason why I recommend you ask about this is because, yes, although I do find America to be number one, I'm also very scared of the way the government is working. They're over-encroaching upon our own sovereignty, right? They're splitting every single topic into red and blue, and it's dividing all of us. And so I'm not here for it. That's nonsense. The title of this talk is called "Become Ungovernable." Well, this is how you do it. You got to hedge your bet, right? And that's it. That's it for that section. In terms of EU citizenship, the easiest.
I just want you to know that. I just want you to know that this is recorded, and I'm just glad that you shat on America at least once during this time.
I don't recall. I plead the fifth. So the easiest EU citizenship to get right now is Malta. Okay. The wait time, I've heard it varies, but I've had a couple of friends do it. It took them 36 months to get. It has certain real estate requirements, it has certain asset requirements, but it always depends. It really just depends on the year that you're applying in. And so, I wish you best of luck with that. And I really would consider hedging your residency, hedging your citizenship. Oh, by the way, if any of you renounce U.S. citizenship, just understand that you lose a lot of your rights, including the right to own firearms. So just be careful with that. There are a lot of these little rules, but it's okay. Your attorneys will let you know that, like, what you're signing up for.
Go ahead, Rascal.
All right, so I just wanted to ask. So my wife is from Morocco. That's why I talk about Morocco once in a while. And we're gonna probably get property in Morocco just to have it, so we can go there and visit her family and stuff. But I think I kind of answered this in my head, but I'm thinking, any assets, because I think you have to have residency to have like any assets in Morocco, but I can just put it in her name, I'm thinking, and that way any assets we have there will just be in her name, and I don't need residency there or
your
anything
lender,
like that. I would want
your lender, your bank, and possibly even Henley and Partners, if you're using them, will assist you with all of this. This is their job to answer these kinds of questions.
okay.
Yeah,
Right on.
it'll be easy.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be easy. What do you say? What do you say? Don't. What do you say?
I don't remember.
Worry about it. Everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Everything's gonna be.
Yo, Cosmin.
Yes, sir. XYZ, I have one question.
Yeah, what's up?
Is it true that the USA is heavily investing in Poland, and we might see in the future a shift of power in Europe, like from the west to east?
I have no idea about foreign policy. Trade routes and trade policy is one of the most difficult subjects, and I think it requires at least 30 years of extensive experience to even comment on this, because it is so fragmented and so difficult, and half the time the public has no idea what's happening. So I feel uncomfortable commenting about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to note that. Oh, sorry. Go. You want to get?
Yeah, I have one more small topic, and the reason why I forgot about it is because it's very easy. Okay, this is regarding insurance. All right, you need to be overinsured as opposed to underinsured. Okay, the two, for Americans at least, the two best insurance companies are anything through a Swiss company, ironically, called Chubb, CHUBB, or a spin-off of Chubb called Pure, Pure. There are independent brokers that you can contact, and they will prepare you quotes, and they will actually get you multiple quotes. and you will need a barrage of insurance products. And so, get ready to pay up. But it's definitely worth it. After you reach about, I think it's after 30 million, they will advise you get something called kidnapping and ransom insurance as well, and they can provide all this. For those that are in Europe, for those that are in Europe, it's actually it's a little bit more difficult. Lloyd's of London does service the US as well as Europe. The problem is they're extremely expensive, like they're prohibitively expensive. So again, your attorneys and things will help you out with that. Your private client attorneys do have relationships with insurance companies.
This is for insurance overall, or
Every form of insurance. So any asset that you have, from home to yourself to umbrella policies to everything, you need to be overinsured compared to under. And because all of this stuff will be within a trust, it'll be fairly easy to handle. So if anybody sues you, it's kind of like, yeah, you have this great insurance policy, but they might not even be able to tap into it.
All right, thanks for that. Just to note before we go ahead with Resolve there, you did mention that JP Morgan, you're with JP Morgan, the largest AUM bank in the US, and I also believe you're with Credit Suisse or UBS now, which is, I believe, yeah, right. Yeah, wait for the crash. The largest AUM in Europe, I believe, as well. Or is that true, or would it be Debit Suisse? I'm not really sure.
No. Right now it's UBS at this point.
Or Deutsche Bank. Yeah, sorry. So it is.
No, Deutsche Bank is no. It'll be UBS at this point. By the way, there's this guy that I've had previous experience with. His name is Chris R. I think this guy's like, I don't know. How do I say it? Yeah.
He's a shill, right? So we won't.
Okay.
Who cares?
Yeah.
All right. Who's next? Resolve.
Yo, thanks for bringing me up. I just want to say, man, I'm blown away. This is awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I came onto something a few days ago, and I've been trying to validate it and get some more information about it. And I was hoping maybe you could tell me what your thoughts are, if you can. Basically, it's a series of videos that discusses land jurisdiction records and the claim that, we were all forced out into quote unquote foreign side of trust operating in the international jurisdiction of the sea, and that we all need to come back as non-citizen nationals.
No.
And what is this all nonsense or like?
It's bullshit. Okay, listen. Just it's okay. It's okay to ask these questions. I don't mean to disparage anybody. These are all valid questions. Here's the issue. Anything that even touches sovereign citizenship, get rid of that shit. That it doesn't work. It's a very weird interpretation of the law. And it honestly, it's not going to hold up in any court.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's why I was trying. I do have a little bit of self. I pushed myself into the law a little bit so that so I have some understanding of legalities of things and how how the wordage carries. Sure. But this was just something that with jurisdiction and what I understand about jurisdiction as well, it was like, oh my God, is this legit or what? So it was really intriguing to me, but it's good to hear your voice on that. And then one final thing, just quickly, you had mentioned yesterday something about making these statements of like, I'm not a financial advisor or like whatever, and you're saying it's pretty much nonsense because you're not getting compensation. Yes. Well, I was thinking about that, and I'm like, all of a sudden now we're getting compensation from X for our contributions. Does that essentially turn us into a provider?
No, because there's no explicit contract that states that you are the reason why you're clicking follow on this person is to accept financial advice. So no, absolutely not.
So as somebody who's just posting and then getting money, I didn't necessarily acknowledge myself as a provider that is getting money. So therefore, I'm not on the other side.
No, I can give you my qualifications. Like technically, I am an RIA, but I'm not giving any fee for service advice, right? So it's there's no consideration. So that's legally called consideration, where there's basically a fee for service and there's an exchange of goods and services, and we're not doing any of that. So we're good to go. Oh, that's the phrase.
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
Yeah, these things are just popping up, and you know what I mean. And so like for a person that sets themselves up to be a provider as a subscriber. Like I want to let people subscribe to me. Therefore, am I providing a service?
You're fine.
Right on. Cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. And again, thanks for letting me come out, man.
No worries.
Yeah, I have a question, if that's all right.
Of course.
Another one. So it's a little more bigger macro, but if we're talking about trust and banks and all that kind of stuff, and say there is a tremendous squeeze, would these banks, and like, how would that affect, in a way, would there be bankruptcies of these banks?
Yeah, many will go under. Many will go under, and then you're going to have a bunch of the federal governments, depending on which country that they're in, to bail them out. Inevitably, a lot of these people will be bailed out, and it's going to be kind of a thing where, all these regional banks were collapsing recently in America. They will all get, well, they'll all become a part of JPM, essentially.
That's what it seems like. Would that pretty much be the MOASS money? Would just be the Fed printing?
A bunch of it, yeah.
All right.
Yes and no. Like, there is indirectly, yes, is how I'll answer it. Because remember, we have. They say that we have $4 quadrillion of derivative value. I think it's more like 10 to 15 at least. You guys, they're hiding the swaps. Like the CFTC is actively just. You can't possibly estimate the amount of value that has been imbued into the markets. So it's going to be a large play.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yo, go ahead, Chad or Rascal. I can't remember which one of you guys were first.
Chad was first.
Oh, what a Canadian thing to do.
I am French Canadian. I haven't admitted that yet, but yeah.
Oh, bonjour, comment ça va?
Two gentlemen.
No, I don't speak it. None of that.
Oh, you don't speak it? Okay.
It's just in the
Je
blood.
t'avance
Yeah, le baguette.
I'm surrounded by.
Okay. Hey, Chad here. I have a question for XYZ. So I want to give some of my money to some family members and stuff like that. What is the best way to do? Because obviously I'm going to get taxed shit on all this, But what do you think is the best way? I'm sure there's lots of people in this situation that would want to give some.
There are many ways you can go about this.
What is the best way? Legally?
Yeah, of course.
Can't you like gift it?
There is a maximum gift limit that you can give that's tax free. But again, the one recommendation I would do, I would really follow is get these attorneys and a CPA first, and then just tell them what you want to do. And there are a number of ways they can go about it. They can even do it where there will be monthly distributions to them if that's how you want to do it. It's quite customizable. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
Yo, on that, I believe you're planning to set up your own animal sanctuary and some other thing I remember that was very
pediatric hospice. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So how do you do you plan to go about the same way?
It will be through a 501c3 corporation, so that will require filing. I believe it's called a 1023. And then again, this is all US code, by the way. I apologize. I know we're a global group, but
oh yeah, when are we going to do the Canadian version of this?
I don't. Yeah. I have no comment on Canada.
Same, but just
so
I guess it's the same kind of idea, I guess, right?
With nonprofits that are 501c3s, you can donate a maximum, I believe, of 50% of your AGI, your adjusted gross income. Again, this is all US based. For family foundations, I think the limit is 30. There may be some exceptions. So again, your CPA will assist you with all this. There are plenty of ways to save money on tax. Like don't sweat this. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I guess it was just the best way to set up any kind of foundation or charitable organization.
Your attorney your attorney can easily set you up. Nonprofit law is a burgeoning industry, mainly because there's a lot of money laundering in it. But let's not comment on
that. All right. Well, we'll ask about that part next time.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions? I saw somebody requested there and then dropped down. But please feel free to ask any questions. Beth, how you doing for time? Are you all right?
I'm okay.
Sticking
Yeah, I
around?
can stick around for a little bit. Sure, of course.
Cool. Thank you so much, by the way, for
No
sharing all
problem.
this knowledge.
Hopefully
It's
some of this
absolutely
stuff
incredible.
helps. If it just guides you in the right direction, that's fine. Some of these attorneys are uncomfortable with dealing with foreign trusts. Just get a second opinion. I mean, I'm dealing from this from a criminal perspective. And remember, most of these trust attorneys, they deal with, well, generally honest clients. So sometimes it's difficult for them to see that foreign trusts do tend to supersede the protection that domestic ones do. By the way, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but if you're of foreign jurisdiction from the U.S., this is generally why many people from foreign jurisdictions will end up signing up for what is called a domestic asset protection trust. Okay, so basically it's kind of ironic, but if you're outside of the U.S., you'll actually get more protections in the U.S. than if you were in.
All right, go ahead, Resolve.
I took my hand down, but let's see. Just really quick. I don't know if you want to touch this or not, but
Uh-oh.
So, I mean, I am an honest and law-abiding person, but
Sure.
I had some things from when I was younger that
It's okay.
have impacted me financially.
It's okay.
So, like, I'm carrying this around with me,
Okay.
and in all senses of the term, it's not fair to my family. So, I've commingled assets and money
Okay.
In my account from other family members. But as
Sure.
far as the world's concerned, those are my assets. So when those assets balloon for whatever reason, I want to be able to establish, that those assets were come from different, entities essentially into my account, which would essentially mean that I didn't designate myself as a manager or whatever. So like,
yeah,
I don't know if there's any hope in establishing that distinction between
no, I mean,
the origin of the
no,
assets or
there's
not.
really not. You'll probably end up going to jail, and I wish you well. No, I'm kidding. Relax. No, what you do
I
is
was ready. That's already happened.
okay. Anyway, that's okay. No problem. What I would do is if you're going through this right now, I would try to get a local CPA right now and tell them exactly what you're doing, because you need to take care of this like ASAP, because this is not legal, right?
Yeah, it was essentially a car accident, and
You don't
I
need
was a
to.
teenager, so
Hey,
they bent
stop!
me over.
No, stop talking. I'm telling you, this can all be admissible. Okay, shh, quiet. You know what? Actually, this reminds me. Stop talking to cops. Okay, every time we get depots, which are called depositions, right? Everybody squeals. I don't understand this. Okay, if any of you have wives or girlfriends or things of that nature, talk to them about how to concoct a story. I'm telling you. Okay, in the court of law, they will spin a story that is so unbelievable, I'll question my own data. But for some reason, men will just openly admit it. They're like, yeah, I killed him. Like, dude, hold on. They haven't even asked you if you killed the guy, right? So you want to be incredibly careful with what you say, right? And especially if this is recorded. Just please, like, my advice basically, just to, summarize all this, is like, shut up. Okay, not specifically to you. I'm not trying to disparage you in any kind of way. No judgment. That's okay. Everybody goes through things. Oh,
sorry. I was just adding someone there.
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not disparaged. I
No,
appreciate that, and
you
that is
gotta
sound
no
logic.
cops, no
Yeah.
nothing. You need to have extended attorney-client privileges before you speak with your attorney. Your attorney will tell you everything. Don't make any media appearances. You just shut up. I'm telling you, you're gonna get away with it if you shut up.
Yeah, don't
Including
talk to
the
cops.
wife.
Okay. No, really, this is like, I see this all the time. Okay, stop self-snitching. I'm telling you.
What did you tell us that if you have an accomplice, if it's a woman, you're
I mean,
gonna
that
get
just sounds
you're gonna
sexist.
get.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sears. I didn't say any of that.
That's why I didn't record that. No. There was some statistic about getting.
They will generally
given
throw
up.
you under the bus. Like it's like 80%. It's some ridiculous statistic.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know.
So bros before housing.
I guess so. Yeah.
Who had a question there? Rafting, how's it going?
It's going good. First off, I just want to thank Mr. Z for taking the time to do this.
Sure.
I joined a little late, so I have two questions, or a two-part question, basically. Over time, you've been talking about like chambers.com being a good source, to find legal help, etc. Can you give it like the first couple of steps? I guess my main question is, you find a lawyer. What does that conversation sound like when you're talking to them?
When you find the individual, okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead. No, ask your second part. Sorry.
Yeah, and the second part was all of this information that you're giving us. At what dollar amount of accumulation are we talking at?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is it $1 million? Is it 10 million?
I would suggest after 5 to 10 million, you can start doing this.
Okay.
People have done it with less money, by the way. Okay, but this is just like a general. You're honest to God, once you sign up for banking, they're going to tell you to do this, like depending on your net asset value and your liquidity profile. To answer your first part, the conversation is really easy. You're going to tell them, you always be honest with your attorneys, okay? With your CPAs, with your attorneys, you can be honest with them. There are extended privileges between you two, okay? Everything's okay. They have to act in your best interest, okay? So you tell them, look, I want to set up a trust and estate plan, and I have this amount of liquidity available in these accounts, and could you help me out? And they will get to work. A lot of this stuff is templated, and then what they tend to do is they attach things for individuals because everybody's also unique, right? And so some people want to start a certain foundation, some people might want to start, XYZ, whatever it might be. But it's all kind of, you're really paying them a lot of money for like a bunch of templates that they have. So hope that helps.
Yeah,
All right,
it
Rascal,
actually
what's
does.
going
I
on?
appreciate the answer. Thanks.
Of course.
I got a dumb.
No, don't worry about it.
Kind of like a dumb IRA question.
Okay.
I mean, most of it isn't in an IRA. Most of my shares are in a basic brokerage.
Just like individual accounts?
Yeah, just an individual account. But I have some in an IRA account that I'm using some money that I'm going to roll over from an old 401k. So I got to kind of should I put it in an IRA, or should I just put it in and pay the fees and put it in an individual? Is it going to be more difficult if it's in an IRA account to put it in like a trust or anything like that?
No, not at all. No.
Okay,
No.
so I mean, it's like that's fine.
Nope.
I can set that.
It'll be very easy. So wait.
Okay.
I need to ask you a question.
That was really awesome.
Hold on. So you're rolling over your 401k into an IRA, right?
Yeah, it's from an old company. It's only like $1,400.
Okay, no problem. Just make sure it's documented. Your brokerage is going to send you some documentation. Just give it to your CPA. They'll handle all of it.
Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Dr. Chaos.
Yeah. First of all, thanks XYZ for doing this. I really appreciate it. A lot of information. Second, what do you recommend about healthcare when it comes to getting private insurance versus insurance through a trust for us U.S.-based people that have to pay for our own health insurance?
No, so it'll be through private insurance. You'll have to basically sign up for whatever your state will allow you to sign up for. In general, what the wealthy tend to do is they'll have a concierge service instead. So it's called boutique medicine or concierge medicine. And they'll just come to your house, or they'll do telemedicine. So you'll have an individual doctor. There are certain states that actually have programs with hospitals. So you pay them a flat monthly fee and you get VIP service.
He currently has this.
Yeah. Yes, awesome. I do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So hope that helps. Oh, can we talk about I do have one section that I kind of left off, but I might as well talk about it because it'll take like 2 minutes. Let me pull up my give me a second.
The more the merrier, yeah.
Give me 1 second.
What are we gonna do when you go dark?
I mean, you'll have this recording. It'll be fine.
Yes.
This is all the information I have. So by the way, this is all accumulated over 5 years of like constant mistakes, right? And so so that's why I'm like, listen, that this is just, it's better to just tell you guys, and you guys can just run with the information, right? Okay, I want to talk to you
Can we
guys about
keep you on
strategic.
retainer for information?
No. It's I don't offer any services. Okay, strategic donations. Okay, I want to talk about this. It's called reciprocal altruism. Some of you might hate this concept. I don't care. You want to make recurring donations to your community. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to make it to my local police precinct, my local fire department, my local tier 1 hospital that isn't academically related because I don't want residents touching me. My local top university oncology facility that's closest to me, my local top cardiac facility that's closest to me, as well as if you have children, you want to donate to a top pediatric facility that's closest to you, as well as a highly ranked private school in your area. Okay. And then the last, the funniest thing is in this list that I wrote quickly, the last item is organizations that you actually care about. Okay, so these are the kinds of donations that you want to make. If you want to try to, I don't know, not escape the law or kind of like evade the law, but you want very kind politicians, you want to start making political donations, right? And then there are actually consulting companies that will help you out with this on like which kind of strategic donations to make, so on and so forth. If you want to build a brand, you should hire one of the top 4 PR firms. There's a whole world out there. You know, go and find it.
I just want to get out of really high speeding tickets. That's all.
So for example, in certain states, I will tell you, just I mean, you know, just through what I know, in certain states, if you donate to your local police precinct, they'll actually give you a sticker or a card.
Yeah.
It tends to work. I don't know.
It helps.
It
does help.
helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes
But I would never
wallet,
put decals on your car because people are
Yeah,
psycho.
man, I can't do that. Yeah.
And they will like my favorite decals on cars that I see are the ones with like, you know, Sig Sauer or like Glock or something. I'm like, dude,
Yeah, you're
like
just advertising. You have a gun
you're
in
like,
your
hey,
car.
come take my gun. Like, what's wrong with you?
Seriously. Oh my
You
God.
loser.
Wow. We do think a lot alike in some ways. That's funny.
Absolutely. So these are the kinds of donations that I would make. I would set this up through, you know, there's a lot more freedom if you set this up through a family foundation than a DAF, but there are many ways of going about this, so I wish you well.
Okay. Can you run through some of the, I guess, speculated benefits of those donations to your local precinct, your local...
So your local precinct, the way that it works is once you make a donation there, I have some friends who've done this, and the county that I'm in, they don't give a shit, so I've stopped donating to them. But certain counties, what they'll do is they'll give you a private number where you can just call, you know, an individual number, and they'll come to your house. Like in the state that I am, the police will just never come to your place. So it's gotten rather impossible. But in other places, they'll give you a special number. You'll call them. An off-duty cop will come up to your dwelling and be like, hey, what's going on? You may also get special treatment with the law. So in case if you get caught with, you know, a self-defense charge or whatever it may be, they'll let you go. You know, I've heard various stories of them intentionally dropping the ball. So they're not following proper procedures on purpose, so that they'll let you go on, you know, they can let you go. Your fire department, if you donate to them, they may show up to your house first. You know, if you have any problems, they'll give you a private line. Your insurance company will also help you out with this, by the way. So like Chubb and Pure will have private firefighters that will arrive to your place. So you're just kind of covered all over. Your hospital, they'll treat you like a VIP. Oncology and cardiac, the reason why I recommend those is because we're all either dying of cancer or a heart attack. Okay, so you know, donate to those units. And make sure that they know who you are, right? So make sure that they know that you're affiliated with XYZ Foundation, or you know, whatever it's named. And then for children,
so you'd be donating from a foundation, is that
absolutely, you need to donate from a foundation. Absolutely. So the way that it works is you, as you know, the individual will allocate part of your cash flow that you've made throughout the year. Basically your AGI. You'll donate a part of it to your family foundation. Okay, this will all be again managed via your CPA, And then from there, you can donate it into basically whatever you want. I mean, family foundations are extremely unregulated, okay, which I like. So, and then for children, of course, pediatric facilities help, as well as I mean, I advocate for private schooling mainly because the public schooling system sucks now. It's turning into a free for all. It's kind of a zoo at this point, and so but to each his own. And then organizations and causes you care about, that's fine too. Local colleges that you want your kid to get into, you can also donate to them as well. Once they're 16 maybe, you can start. You can make them a call. You can always talk to every one of these facilities, by the way, they all have a donor relations team. So you can write that down, donor relations. You call them up and you tell them, listen, I want to establish a recurring donation with you guys. One-time donations are cool and they like it, but they tend to prefer recurring from just my experience.
That's so interesting. I really appreciate your answer on that. We got Cosmin and then Moaz.
Sure.
Let's go.
Yes, sir. I would like to thank you for everything, and I'm certain that after this is over, I'll probably never hear from you. So again, I would like to thank you for everything. You, at least me, you helped me a lot with all this information, and now I have to head out. So everyone, please.
Hey, no problem, man. Thank you so much. You asked great questions, so I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I'm still quite young, and I'm still learning, and I'm still.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're all trying to make it. I understand. Man.
Yeah, I'm trying to be around people like you, So thank you. I'll have to head out. Have a nice one.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cosmin. Take care. Bye. All right. What's up, Moaz?
Hey, what up, Professor XYZ? I just want to say thanks for everything and all the intel. What would you suggest for like relocation services for someone who's like slightly, who can't really like manage to get a lot of stuff? Say I do relocate and get land somewhere like in the States or whatever. What would you suggest for rather than like, some ordinary like U-Haul? Do you know like professional like services that can like put everything in like a truck or like get stuff like delivered in like a more of a practical manner?
That's a fantastic question. I have no idea. I'm sorry. You stumped me. I'm telling you, I have no clue.
I was just thinking, like, as if this happens, like, and like, like everybody like moves out and gets like relocates, like, do you know if any like things that can like movers or something like that like professionals or someone like in that like in our tax brackets that can like get stuff professionally done and moved?
You can try this company called The Nines. Okay, it's called The Space Nines, Nines. They may be able to help you out. They mostly do domestic staffing. And I intentionally didn't talk about like all the vanity stuff that you can do because you might end up spending too much. So, but there's a company called The Nines that's pretty good. There's another concierge service called Quintessentially. It's just spelled like the word. They're like okay. I don't know. I have problems with the way that they email me sometimes. They'll like email me random persons. They'll like respond to somebody's email that I'm not even a part of, and they'll basically dox their own clients. I mean, I know that sounds horrendous, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. The problem is there's not these kinds of services like suck nowadays. They used to be really good 20 years ago, and they're just like they're really shit at this point. So like I don't have a personal assistant, I don't have any executive assistants. I just handle everything from a couple apps.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate it. No, it was just something that crossed my mind, like when it came to like if we all do get somewhere and go somewhere.
No, that's a great question.
No,
Hey man,
that's a great question. Hey man,
you've stumped me.
You've stumped me. No, I'm not like I didn't mean to stump you. You've been more than helpful. But no, that's all I have, and I just really appreciate everything. You seem real genuine. I just want to thank you, man.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate it. All right, cool. Floor can be forever.
All right, the baby. Let's go.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on?
So, I also wanted to give my 2 cents on post-MOASS asset management. So, my full-fledged portfolio will look like Ligma, Loopring, Immutable X, GameStop, Microsoft, Apple, Bitcoin, and ETH. That's it. Seven assets, and then also land. But the curious thing is, you're aware of donor advised funds, right? XYZ. So is there anybody that's qualified to, so like if I'm able to say I make a bill off GameStop, which it could be a pretty big possibility if we all hold for a long time. So 200 million would go to taxes. 300 million would go to taxes. How do I guarantee that the government does not get a fucking cent and we can form DAOs through self-directed donor advised funds? Because I want to deploy smart contracts, say for food banks, and want to pay everybody in loops, or say, a big project of mine would be, let's bring manufacturing back to America. Yet, we can use Mexico as a huge trading partner. Pay them all in loops. Pay them all a thriving wage. That'll be a great way to onboard tens of millions of people. I think we can do it. We have 500,000 subject matter experts in their own field all over the world. But how would you go about setting up a donor advised fund for a DAO and not letting the government have a fucking cent of it?
So I likely wouldn't do it via DAO. But the first thing, again, I would do is I would hire one of those private client attorneys and tell them what you exactly want to do. Because the things that you want to do are immensely complex, and it's going to likely require you to form a corporation.
So like an LLC?
An LLC, possibly taxed as a C Corp, yeah.
Gotcha. And I was thinking, like, if, someone not qualified are able to do that, not that in sense, but if I wanted to, like, put 5% of my capital gains taxes that would, instead of going to the government, it can go into like maybe 1 to 5%. But Fidelity, they have their own crypto donor advised fund. So I hate to say it, like if I really have to, I can put some of it, like 1 to 5% of what I originally was going to pay to taxes, in a Fidelity donor advised fund in Bitcoin or Ethereum. When Bitcoin's at like, I think it's going to go to 4,000 a coin. So I'm going to be able to ride that wave up, and we'll be able to give so much to charity. So like that could be a custodian, like a faster or a fast tracked way of getting.
Yeah, they'll be able to do that too. You can call Fidelity brokerages, Fidelity brokerage, tell them what you want to do, and then they can set something up.
So instead of paying your taxes, you can, really gift all of it. Is that what?
No. Well, it's complicated, guys. Just you should really use a CPA. I'm just going to word it at that. There's really only a max AGI that you can donate.
Yeah, I'm sure there's caps. Yeah.
It basically ranges from 30 to 50%. There have been some exceptions recently, but that's why you have a CPA.
Yeah, but if you can get it down to, if you get it down to 15%, and just gift away, that'd be nice.
And then, of course, from your future assets, you use the buy, borrow, die principle. So you basically you buy broad market mutual funds or whatever portfolio that you want to arrange, and then you borrow from that using pledged asset lines or security-backed loans. That's through your bank. They will charge you a nominal interest rate, and then subsequently, you do what is known as a step up in cost basis when you do the estate transfer. So essentially, you'll never pay your loan back, which is the best. It's like the best thing in the world.
XYZ. Like for me, like I was just thinking like doing that same thing, but like never use my computer share as any collateral. Like I'll just have 10 million in Fidelity in like Apple and Microsoft, buy it at the low, and just fucking ride that bitch. I will not, it'll be easy for year to year.
It will likely be, I wouldn't use Fidelity for secure backed loans. I would use your bank's brokerage. They will give you a way better rate than Fidelity. Fidelity, dude, you'll have like 10 million in Fidelity. They'll be like, oh, it's still 9%. You wouldn't catch me paying 9% on that shit. Anyway.
Oh, hell no.
I just want to add as well, in terms of exchange rates, using your broker to exchange your cash like fiat.
Oh, can we? Okay, yeah, sorry.
I just think that's a great. You get a much better. Well, if you're using IBKR particularly, you're getting a much better exchange rate.
Much better rate.
So before you guys just dump it out into your local bank account,
speaking of which, somebody was talking about real estate and land. I just want to talk about that really quickly. It'll take 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to suggest take as long as you want, man.
If anybody is interested in real estate and land, okay, let's talk about corporate real estate first, because residential real estate is different. Everybody has their own preferences. They can do whatever they want. That's okay. I've already talked to you about different trust structures that you can implement to protect your assets and so on. So you guys are good to go.
I want a mountain.
What's up?
I want a mountain.
You want a mountain
or a valley? Let's say a valley.
Yeah. So I'll start with land first because it's easy. Land, unless if you're doing rezoning or development upon this land, there's no cash flow. You cannot collateralize it for cash. Try to go to a private lender or bank. They're not going to give you anything, I assure you. Most ranch hands and farmland owners that are generational owners of this land, they want to sell the land because they have no liquidity. Unfortunately, with a lot of these investments, there's a gigantic issue with this notion of being house rich versus cash poor. And most of these people, I'm telling you, once you do these asset pulls, you're going to see they're cash poor. So, and in terms of corporate real estate investing, I would hire an excellent corporate broker. Don't hire your friend that sells track homes once every month or whatever it may be. Just hire you need to hire domain experts. I promise you, they charge more. You also probably likely need to hire a real estate attorney. Your private client attorney will advise you on this. It's not a problem. It's easily doable. And they will help you navigate these contracts. These corporate contracts are very difficult to read. Real estate law in and of itself, I mean, we've been dealing with it with Bed Bath & Beyond, remember, with all the leases? It's immensely complex. And so I urge you to hire the experts. They will guide you through it. I would refrain from corporate office space and from anything retail related. This market is basically going to be dead for the next, 5 to 10 years. Most of the investors, remember, the majority of the investors that are investing in real estate right now are doing what is called a 1031 or a reverse 1031 exchange. What that means is they've already been investing in real estate and they want to avoid capital gains tax. Therefore, they transfer the profits that they make from the units that they've just sold, and they transfer it onto their next property. Okay, so these are not like novel real estate investors. This is all these people are well established, and so I would kind of hold off a little bit until the corporate mortgage-backed securities rate, the default rate goes above 8%. Right now, I think we looked it up like yesterday or the day before, and it was at 3.5, maybe 4%. It's easily going to shoot up. Remember, in cities, retail or these kind of mixed-use office spaces, there's anywhere from 30 to 60% vacancy, right? This is not good. So I urge you to be careful. The time-tested ones tend to be warehouses, as well as things like Lowe's, Home Depot. Grocery stores are good as long as there's no gym connected. There tend to be a lot of homeless people running around in the gym. But these things you'll just build through experience, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's okay. Everybody goes through it. And then there was something else that I wanted to talk about. I completely forgot. It's actually quite important.
Maybe
real estate.
It'll come to you. Yes, yeah. It was land and real estate, and you were talking about like buying sort of corporate.
It's probably not a big deal. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you were talking about the triple X or.
Sorry. So there are triple net properties. Oh, that's right. I wanted to talk about cap rate. So there's something called capitalization rate. You want to make sure your cap rate is above your mortgage interest. Okay. So look up the cap rate equation. You can look on. You can look for properties on a website that I recommend that everybody uses called LoopNet. Has nothing to do with LoopRing. It's called LoopNet. This is the gold standard for looking up corporate real estate. And the cap rates, generally for triple net properties, by the way, are properties that you basically don't take care of. You're just the landlord. The tenant will take care of everything. Sometimes there are roof covenants and things, but again, that's what you have, attorneys and your broker for and so on. They'll warn you about all the pitfalls. So you can engage with this as long as you get, a good corporate loan rate, which by the way, right now, I mean, the rates are insane. So it's very difficult to try to buy these type of assets. Actually, yeah, that was the most important part. Thank you, Sears. I appreciate it.
Cool. I just before we get to the baby and office date, I just wanted to ask about when we finally come around to buying our real estate. Do you recommend buying with a mortgage or on loan, or buying straight out, like depending on the economic?
It'll be depending on your bank setup, the way that your trust is set up. Your attorney will advise you on how to purchase it. Loans for people with liquidity are like readily available. So this isn't the standard. So in the US, they look at 2 years of your W-2. They come up with the debt to income ratio. They'll give you basically 1/3 of your gross income per year as the maximum monthly payment that you can make, and they will extrapolate it from that. Lenders have become very salty recently because they've kind of been over lending at this point. And so, but these problems will not apply to you guys.
All right. Cheers for that. So we got the baby and then office date.
Great. Let me just chew my food real quick. Just took a bite of my pizza. 1 second.
Could you advise on pizza? What your favorite pizza is? XYZ.
Hawaiian.
Oh, stop! Really, Hawaiian pizza?
Love Hawaiian pizza.
I mean, I like it. I like pineapple. Like,
I love the pineapple. I love pineapple on pizza. What are you gonna do about it?
I do like pineapple. Yeah, with bacon, it's pretty good.
Oh, it's awesome.
But from where though? From what state?
Little Caesars, hands down. I'm kidding.
From what state? I don't know. I mean, I go to Chicago a lot.
You used to live in New York, didn't you? Like, do you like pizza in California or?
No. New York pizza. So the problem is New York pizza is honestly very hit or miss.
Yeah, it can be. You gotta know the good spots. Yeah.
California pizza, there's rarely any good pizza around, but the ones are well known. So it's I find it easier to get to those compared to New York pizza. Every single pizza place is named the same thing.
Yeah, I know.
And they all look the same. They're all next to a Subway. I don't want to go there. So it's all just Dunkin' Donuts and pizza places. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on a more a serious note. So I was thinking about different events that would I want to kind of identify failures and their effects on wider market liquidity. Let's say when FedWire went down, right? So I saw this. I think I may have spoke to this a few months ago about when HSBC and Wells Fargo were issued money market failure reports with the DTCC. Sure. So I thought multiple things failed to deliver. If it happened that, maybe they just didn't get it submitted to SWIFT before the next day cut off. But we know that the DTCC did 100% haircut with all these dog shit securities CMBS, MBS, whatever, everything's nothing is accepted as collateral except for pristine US securities or treasury bonds. But you spoke of municipal bonds or something of that sort. So I was thinking in my head, there are tri-party custodial agreements, say with I like to focus on BNY Mellon and State Street. So one of the black holes is the cashing in of BNY Mellon and State Street collateral. If I'm talking Wells Fargo, if they collapse, because they have billions of these municipal deposits in excess of FDIC coverage. So if BNY Mellon and State Street have to dump their MBS, CNBS, and their municipal shit to satisfy their tri-party agreements with the Wells Fargo depositees, the debt market implodes. But then they'll have to sell those specific bonds pledged as collateral for the deposits with tri-party agreements in place. So that's kind of like the fire aspect of all this supply, supply coming in the market with absolute no demand. So it just gonna keep getting bidded lower and lower. But I think they're about to, State Street, BNY are about to cash in their collateral, but Wells Fargo has a shit ton of municipal bonds that don't qualify as collateral. But I know this does not, these market events, or not market events, but these cascading failures are different in the Eurodollar system because everyone takes whatever collateral in the Eurodollar system. Sure. But in the US markets, why aren't we seeing massive failures in these big banks if they're all holding? Since, man, I was convinced after the DTCC haircut that we would see firms getting denied collateral in repo markets. Is it just the fucking Fed?
It's just the Fed
literally propping up all these banks, because in a normal system, everyone would get fucking Thanos snapped. And I'm thinking BNY Mellon's positioning themselves to take out, two people in their tri-party agreements, because if State Street's holding custodian of XRT could be bringing down the whole fucking market if the whole market's using that XRT ETF as synthetic share creation, and that presents counterparty risk for every single ETF, that it's just going to daisy chain from State Street to Schwab to Vanguard ETFs and just take everyone down with them. So I'm kind of confused, why? I don't know. I guess everyone's at the Fed's mercy, but these institutions are trying to position themselves oh, you're not holding the bag. It's been passed around, and
it's a massive game of hot potato, and the Fed's backstopping all of it, and then eventually we'll come to crash. So that's the
exactly. Answer. Yeah. But I put something in the nest, a few things from Finance Lancelot, which I'm doom and gloom porn. Let's fucking go.
Sure.
Rascal, I love your bio, dude. Love it.
All right, go ahead, Alpha State, and then we got Rascal.
Yeah.
I think it was Jow, right?
Oh, was somebody else? Did I miss somebody?
Jow had their name hand up for a while.
Oh, I think that might have been mine. I had a name change, just so, for consistency.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry.
So this might be kind of an obtuse question, and you might be dedicated to something else, but how do you see the CBDCs playing in during, say, a MOASS event?
So likely what's going to happen is this will give them the perfect excuse once there's a macro crash happening. After kind of the dust settles, they can say, hey, wait a minute, I have an idea. We're going to introduce central bank digital currencies. So that's probably what's going to happen. There are already pilot programs taking place. Several countries have already started them. Just again, they're in the pilot phase right now, but I can tell you for a fact that the U.S. is actively developing them.
And
I want to pose this question on top of Jal. Sorry to interrupt, but do you guys think there will be a way that they'll peg, they'll give other countries favorable pegs to the U.S. CBDC, and also instead of forcing us to use cash, not to use cash, they're going to be is one CBDC is going to be worth 90 cents on the dollar, then 80 cents or whatever? Or do you guys think it'll just be multiple insolvencies that we're I think we're 12 months behind as the UK is in their systematic implosion of their small business sector in terms of bankruptcies, but to introduce their CBDC or manufacture consent for it. But
yeah, no, that was actually a good question. I think the follow-up, I guess the biggest gray area that I have, and you might be able to piece it together by the questions I'm asking, and it's probably just, too much of the unknown. But I have a hard time visualizing how even the regulatory agencies are going to respond to all this, and say the market becomes completely illiquid and we get bankruptcies. I guess it can go any which way, but I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, it will be reactionary, and they'll be too late. This is what happens every single time. They'll react and they'll go, oh no, what happened? And then they'll deny and they'll say, we had no idea. and then they'll have a knee-jerk reaction to it, of course. And so, yeah, I mean, prepare for it. It's going to be like several years of, trying to edit the markets.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I got time for, I don't know, maybe two more. And
I
then
was
this
just
is
gonna say real quick,
yeah.
I heard, all right, it's gonna topple these banks down, and I heard Schwab, and I have a TD Ameritrade account. So should I
Okay.
be like trying to get out of that TD Ameritrade? Because
No,
Yes.
you okay.
say again.
Let me tell you why, in my opinion. So
Yeah, go ahead.
the same securities that took down SVB are the same ones that Schwab holds at. So Schwab in March 2023, they were down 171% on their hold to mature security position, and that was 3 or 4 rate hikes ago. So I actually have a list. These are the same securities that took down other banks and brokerages, but the aspect with Schwab is 95% of all retail orders go to the dark pools. So these market makers are actually posing the biggest risk to every single broker on the market because they never delivered anything. So when people go to the exits, Schwab will not have cash on hand to backstop all this deposit loss because in banks, yeah. So I am like 100% believe that there will be a few brokerages that survive, which
My
could be
other one's
Fidelity, Vanguard.
so I'll probably switch over to Fidelity.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of, have some in one brokerage and some in another, but I don't know. I might just put it all in Fidelity.
What I will say is, regardless of the percentage, most of the largest brokerages are going to get backstop regardless, as long as you don't have CFDs in your account. Like with regards to the shares, we can't really tell which one is actually going to crash. These meetings are all going to be closed door, and we'll have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, but also, like what I do, Rascal, is I'm 100% DRS. So like, there's no risk that computer share holds. So that's why they don't have FDIC insurance because And
So
what
that's
I
true.
really think,
Okay.
huh?
That's true too. So if I DRS the ones I have with that, it should be fine.
Yeah. That's why I'm like not sweating at all. I'm like, I'm always amped all the fucking time because like I hold no risk. Like I don't. Like I just all I have is GameStop, and that's all I'll ever need. But I do think brokerages, if they survive, in my opinion, they'll just pay out like 300%, like in a MOASS scenario.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I personally do not take any chances. That's why I hold nothing in brokers. Just maybe from time to time when I'm about to DRS it, but that's it. That's like the only extent.
Right.
I'll send you that picture about the top 100 institutions with their hold to mature securities.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah, XYG. I just got one question, and we can wrap it up.
Perfect.
So, we were talking earlier about I was joking about getting a Sears blue Lambo and speeding it all the way to the next Sears shareholder meeting, but you did mention something interesting, and I actually do believe in.
Well, you have to have a company to have a shareholder meeting, right?
Hey, we're right out of the chapter 11, motherfucker. But I'll tell you. So yeah, I do agree with what you said about it, which is that money talks and wealth whispers, and you've seen
absolutely.
and dealt with a lot of wealthy people, and maybe just if we could get you to tie the bow there in terms of how to carry your wealth, how to operate in the world in a way that doesn't make you, I guess, a target, or flaunting your wealth.
I mean, don't dress in Gucci suits and all that. You get what I mean? I mean, it's relatively easy. It's you don't like if I'm walking down the street and so on, nobody can tell.
Hire
I'm just
bodyguard.
like I'm in like a hoodie. You know what I mean? It's very easy. Also, most of my clothes look like I'm a Fed, so it tends to help.
So, in my opinion, I will look. I think having we're in the worst deflationary depression of our lifetime, having a nice car or whatever, like people are just going to assume, oh, that's from GameStop, or like like your family are targets. I told my whole fucking family and my cousins who are apes, like, we're not fucking buying any nice cars, dude. Anybody can follow them home. Anybody can break into their home, kidnap them. 70% of all lottery winners are bankrupt in 5 years. Countless of them have died. Like, I'm not fucking playing. Like, it sounds aggressive. But like that's my strategy. Plus, people are gonna be really, really hurting, you know, and we don't want to put any of our closest friends and family in danger. Plus, it's going to be a game to me and my apes. Like, oh, how much can we hide from? You know, like we'll be being transported in HVAC cars. You know, no one's going to fucking notice. Like, nothing. Boring ass people.
One thing I do IT. One thing I will tell you is when it comes to what the wealthiest own in terms of vehicles, they're not G-Wagons. You understand? They own Toyotas. So, you know, these kinds of things, you gotta be subtle about it.
Speaking as a poor guy, the last thing I wanted is somebody like rubbing their wealth in your face. You just want to punch them in the face. You know what I mean? Like, it's not cool.
Absolutely.
It's not cool. It's like,
no, not at all.
I'm poor. I know exactly how it feels when rich people rub their wealth in your face.
Not cool. Started from zero. It sucked.
Yeah.
Poverty is like an endless migraine.
Oh,
and
you're not kidding.
I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Well,
hey, Donald, have you invested in GME?
All right, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, guys.
I don't even remember anymore. I was getting
just turning
inundated by a lot of people at one point in time or another. A lot of 3 o'clock in the morning heavy duty sales to somebody who barely speaks English. I don't know what I bought. Tell the truth.
All right,
I have a very important question.
End this call.
Yeah, just end it.
Quick.
Kill it.
Sorry,
okay,
guys,
goodbye, everybody.
Thanks.
Where did you buy your coffee table? Where did you buy your coffee table?
Talking later, but, I'm sorry. So thanks so much, XYZ, for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I appreciate it. Maybe we'll do something later again.
Right, take care. We will not. Okay,
later, Gators.
Bye-bye.